had the pleasure of meeting Marisa a long time ago in the context of education. And then I discovered that she's a truly multifaceted personality and also with a very peculiar look for the future. Hi, I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. I'm an educator, design entrepreneur, and author, and also the founder of Creative Leaders Academy. The more complex and volatile our world becomes, the more we need leaders and change makers able to inspire us, to challenge us, and to disrupt the status quo. And today, we are going to have a conversation with Marisa Yiu about curating the city. Hello, Marisa. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Gianluca.
So nice to see you and to reconnect after so many years. So you have an infinite number of activities that you do. You're a founding partner of an architectural firm. You are a co-founder of and executive director of Design Trust. You are a patron. You are an educator. So tell us a little bit about who's Marisa with all these hats.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I have actually just been so thrilled to have this book signed by you, authored by you, on the art of creative leadership. And what's so nice about even just the cover of this book, it says how to confidently grow from manager to leader, even when we don't have all the answers. And I think that also strives and strikes the mission and vision of our existence. And I like your introduction, saying I'm multifaceted. Maybe being multifaceted is also another way to say we're very complex in simple matters, whether I perform in the sector of education or a practicing architect or curator. I think what unites all of this is really serving the community and the public, but also to be able to ignite new types of collaborations. That's something that unifies and unites the work. A little bit of background. I am a designer or a curator, but at the same time been very passionate about building up this neutral, the third space platform called Design Trust, a nonprofit organization that was developed now, oh my gosh, it's already been since 2014. But with something this unique and special, it's not just something that's grown out of just a grassroots initiative, but also how we reflect on the previous models of the nonprofit, which was Hong Kong Ambassador Design. So we've been around for close to 19 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in terms of this amazing question about building practices that refuse to sit in one lane, I've never actually had anyone ask me, why patron? Why be a patron?
Yeah.
Actually, it's quite uncomfortable for me, to be honest, Gianluca. I don't see myself as a patron.
But patronage takes many forms, right? I think the work that you do in Design Trust, what I find fascinating about the initiative, that is not only about curating or educating designers, but you also have an important aspect of financing them. So truly creating the condition for this innovation ideas or projects to actually happen. In that sense, I think patronage is interesting. So how do you put together these two aspects? Because one, of course, there is the creativity aspect or the value aspect, but then there is also the viability aspect, because once you fund something, you have the viability of the project, the service of the project is important. How do you juggle that, which is very interesting as a designer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of this kind of culture of urgency is also what drives us. We're sitting in Soho House, looking back at West Kowloon Cultural District right behind me. We had this really amazing opportunity at that time as a younger curator, 2009, if we dial back the years, government set forward this interesting proposition on how can we build and curate a bi-city biennale of architecture and urbanism between Hong Kong and Shenzhen. This actual empty tabula rasa moment, 2009, no museums, a very blank slate became a backdrop of urgency to how do we cultivate a community of creative people? How do we look at architecture and education? How do you create pavilions that can house temporary public creation? So before, these music festivals, before even having the concept of cultural participation, we had this amazing opportunity to test this idea. So with that struggle, because we were luckily won the bid as young curators to mobilize the city around these concepts, the idea was to say, how can we curate or create an event 3 months long with very limited funding, limited
And resources.
resources, also nurture. At that time, I was teaching at the University of Hong Kong. And so in parallel, although I was in academia, practicing, moonlighting, we felt this urgency to shape or drive and question what culture is of Hong Kong, what is the culture, the future of Pearl River Delta, and engage in that dynamic.
This fascinates me.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's maybe the first time I hear this association of urgency to create something. So your approach to design, which we come from a generation where sometimes, not always, but design was, let's say, frivolous. Well, it was something as an add-on, as something that would make things pretty, things that we both, I know for sure, we fought, because design is about solving problems, and why do you think now, and I believe now more than ever is even more relevant, why this, you talked about urgency, why do we need this now, particularly in this moment of time? Why it became so relevant, so important, more than building, I don't know, a math department, or what is it that the community needs? Why design can touch so many things that, let's call it the cold business, or the functional or transactional life doesn't do.
Sure. I mean, design surrounds us. It's also not for the privileged. I've always had the position where public realm, public space, where we touch, the entry points. I think more important, if we look at it in terms of the public realm, then I think there is that urgency. We're very lucky also back, 7, 8 years ago to have an opportunity which I started called Design Trust Future Studio. It wasn't so much about a frustration of teaching and being in academia or glass ceilings, but it's also like, how do we have conversations and curate a brief with the community to make change? So we started with a very innocent question of, why do 2,000 parks or public spaces owned by the government look like this? Do they have generic playground equipment? Why do certain materials disintegrate quickly? Well, why do children's in Tsuen Wan district access to public space looks very different from the investment of, say, Central in waterfront public areas? So there's this kind of mismatch of understanding what design can do. So it did take me quite a while to think of a theme, a urgent concept that would tie many, many ideas together. So we started with smallness. What is smallness? Small is meaningful. If we are living in small and smaller micro apartments, could public space be a living room for all? And so we did a lot of advocacy, built a lot of prototypes, exhibitions. We caught on to the public's imagination. The media came on, started coming to our exhibitions. And then the sun driver momentum of generosity of spirit through design that could make change became this wonderful opportunity to be like, okay, how can we help? We do have public spaces in Hong Kong. There's about about 40, now it's about 50 small parks under 100 square meters that could be opportunities to test ideas. So I think if we position these open briefs or question these design briefs and get the right community around or the stakeholders around the table, then it could generate and test with the city, with the kind of cultural makers, mentors, mentees, government officials, grassroots communities. It's a long, hard strategy, long road. But it took us about 7 years during the pandemic, and then, of course, the pre-social unrest period to drive these changes. It's all iterative. They're small. They show design in different ways. Just not too far from where we are, there's also that Hill Road Park. Took us about 2 years on and off to work with public and private stakeholders, district council members, to amazing mentors that were just sitting here with us earlier, to understand and impact the heritage of the environment and make it contextually empowering for all members of society to participate in. So it's really designed for the city.
The city, the community.
The community,
Hong Kong, to me, as you know how much I love this city, which made me, that accepted me. It became my home now, so many years ago. Is a city of great opportunities and also great contradiction in a way, meaning that and also its architecture to me is particularly fascinating, right? Because you have 75%, if the number is not correct, is actually countryside,
green,
and then you have these vertical developments and super uber density, but coming from Italy that of course has a very different architecture because it's a centenary architecture. It's been built through centuries. While Hong Kong, the development was much quicker and recent in a way, this vertical explosion, we can say. And yet, there are so many community spaces that, for instance, might not be as common or as usual in the old country where I come from. So, on top of ISC, one of the prime real estate in Hong Kong, a lot of people don't know that that's actually public area. So, although there are some operating business, anyone can go there, have lunch or have a picnic because it's open. So, there are a lot of gates in Hong Kong, but there are also a lot of openings. And I find fascinating the work that you have done in Design Trust, because I don't want to misinterpret this, but you actually created an interesting thread. So it's like you threaded all of these little islands to then create an experience. And not long ago, I was also at N+, and I was amazed because I left for a bit, and when I came back to see how quickly and how beautifully that area was developed and is still developing. So when we have this attention, is there something else that we can do, especially now, for the community? Like, what is the message that we should give, especially to the younger community, or when we create these things that sometimes they might also become overlooked? So when you leave a city, you don't understand the beauty of all these little things.
No, for sure. I mean, thank you for plugging Design Trust. It's this very, very humble but dynamic small nonprofit organization. We do work very hard to fundraise, but it's also collective resource building. And I'm reading into your question about the urgency, or why is it so important today? I think there's many layers. Identity building. I'm from Hong Kong. I grew up here, but I had really lucky opportunity to get scholarships abroad, having opportunities to study in the US, teach in the UK. What's also this idea of this kind of mindset of seeing the importance and the power of Hong Kong. Growing up here in the 70s, the 80s, you get kind of lost in this booming environment, but you also know there's a lot of incredible heritage.
Yeah.
Incredible like Tonglao, local communities. You know, we just had a group that just published this beautiful book on Cha Chan Tang, local cafes.
Yeah.
We had another team looking at brutalism, which we supported with dear hearts to study and analyze districts like Stanley. Last year, we did this beautiful show called The Art of Transformation, questioning the Murray building, the 19th century Victoria building that was taken down slowly in the site of Bank of China, 3,000 bricks, moved to Stanley to be rebuilt.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And when we analyzed that district of Stanley, my question was, this is the highest density of heritage, low-rise cultural buildings. And when we looked at all the list of declared monuments, heritage status 1, 2, 3 graded, there's this immense density of old, either colonial or even brutalism, like St. Stephen's designed, the late Sir Tao Ho created this most incredible gymnasium that had all the aspects of brutal architecture, saving cost, sustainability, etc. So I think there's a lot of reflection of the power of the narrative of what city of Hong Kong is. At the same time, a real investment and responsibility. I'm not talking about financial, but it's like the civic responsibility of saying, we're here, we're from here, we know we're changing, the politics is changing, the governance is changing, the community demographics, new immigrants coming in, expatriate community. I grew up with this 70s, 80s, 90s onwards.
Sure.
That diversity of the community makes this city come alive. And when we look at these overlooked stories, I think that's also the opportunity. We just recently also had a very powerful, intense exhibition, very generous, and I thank them so much for supporting us, donating this incredible space for us to tinker with ideas on the 11th floor of St. John's building, which sits above the Peak Tram terminus. We had this amazing opportunity to transform this space into a learning public gallery where we viewed the city and 12 case studies of innovative 1980s buildings. And when we look at that period, it's also, I wouldn't say overlooked, but there was this beautiful opportunity to say, well, can we relook at the 1980s Central District of Hong Kong, drawing an arbitrary line from City Hall next to General Post Office, which is sadly next year going to be demolished for the future developments.
Yeah.
What is that responsibility? Who makes those decisions? Who are the stakeholders involved in creating this culture? So by drawing a sectional line from City Hall, through weaving through HSBC building, up to the Peak St. John's building, getting on the Peak Tram up to the Peak Tower and looking back at the city, that reminds us of the uniqueness
True.
of
Do you think
Hong Kong. Yeah.
there is a polarizing view that I've been noticing, especially as an educator, with younger generation. A lot of people say, the younger generation doesn't care, they are always on their phone. That one side is that argument, but actually there are a lot of young designers, young creators that are rediscovering with a new eye, and they are eager to learn about this cultural heritage, this really analogical, in a way, experiences, things that change, that they want to see how the past is going to influence the future. So it's very polarizing. So you have this whole movement of, I don't care, I just want to live the next wave of Uber technology. But there is also that. So I see our generation, because we are close in.
Are we?
I don't. I think
know
so.
it's your birthday tomorrow, man.
Thank you. And we are a little bit we are a middle generation, right? Our generation is in between. We are not young anymore. We are not old. So I want to link back to patronage. And how do you see our role? So what are the things that we have to do? Because you talked about Stanley, and it was one of my favorite places. Sadly, I went there not so long ago, and it was a little bit left behind. But once again, that building. So how can we create not only from the architectural perspective, but also from the community, like activity perspective? Like, what are the things that are missing now in terms of more of activities, more of activation of these amazing places? Because we have a lot, but I don't know, because Stanley, if you look at it, architecturally speaking, it's fantastic. But I think it lacks a little bit of activation. So why should I go there besides, buying souvenirs, I would say.
Sure,
So
yeah.
what is it missing, and what can we do?
Yeah, it's a good question. Sometimes maybe my vision is too singular too. Set goals. Although with the goal in mind, you also know you will fail, you will succeed along the way. I had to convince the owners of that 80,000 square foot space. It was sitting empty for about a year, 2 months. I also felt that urgency of why are there resources in our city that are vacant or empty? How do we energize them with meaning and value and build community around these discussions, right? So it became a very probing activation, but I do believe in exhibitions and kind of public realm opportunities because it is interfacing so directly as designers or educators with the public, right? So in terms of being in the curatorial field, that is the best way to access both sides, right? And build that knowledge. You say younger generation, we were all young or once young.
Yes, of course.
But we also stay young because we're constantly curious and constantly questioning the context around us. And, we in a foundation now proudly, starting from zero, literally no funding, no resource, have been able to now achieve about 668 beneficiaries that we've supported, young designers, mentees, curating collective resources to support grantees, to give them seed grants. We know when we were once young, the urgency of building this amazing exhibition that I believed in. I had no money, but to have the opportunity of saying there is a nonprofit foundation that I can apply to, who could believe and nurture us, I think that's our gift to our community. But to be able to propel that kind of giving and level of generosity, it's this really important engine of balancing philanthropy and social good.
Do you think it's also important that companies, I am a strong believer of the social impact of organizations. Like, I have this line that I keep on repeating, that companies are social organizations just as much as financial ones. Because within a company, maybe a large company, right, with thousands of employees, let's say, you are actually sometimes the size of a small city. And so the social aspect sometimes is being left a little bit too on the side, in my opinion. How do we engage more these kind of companies? I don't know, a large bank or a large insurance company, and engage them to say, this is important, this attention for something that is really interesting, really meaningful for the community, rather than just the marketing or the PR facade of things.
Yeah. And create that value. No, I mean, it's something I face all the time.
I know you do.
The perseverance of conviction. And I have been beaten down a lot, many times over. But sometimes you get the right commissioner, donor, business leader who believes and will partner with us. And I think for me, I've learned in the last 15, 16 years, it's been trial and error. How do we talk to people? I think it's also the psychology of, I wouldn't say conviction or convincing, but it's also by now to be able to show proof concept or case studies, right? So the pilot park projects, now we've finally built them. They are proof of concept that it does work. We must do post-occupancy studies to show how it's impacted 1 million people, for example, or the festival impacted, although someone questioned why Stanley, no one goes there. We showed them the successful 17,800 people that came in a period of a month and a half. I always didn't believe in proving with numbers or KPIs. I always believed in anecdotal evidence. So case study stories, just like your book, proving by the writing of, say, an individual, how it's impacted their lives, or the meaning and social value of collaboration, right? To agitate that system within. So business organizations, I find, maybe there's some developers who are very open-minded and extremely excited to invest in experiments. There are other people who are very conservative and it only has to be marketing, it's about themselves. So it's been a challenge. We have never really partnered with a singular developer. We always like to say we are bringing a community of developers or community of educators, and we don't.
Interesting.
Yeah, we really have to build that community of generosity around business leaders or businesses, corporates, and also the generosity of local grassroots communities. Easy per se when you're building these beautiful small parks in, say, Chunwan or even in Hill Road. It's using the context of government capital costs to fund and build these parks. But what you don't realize is the 18 months before that, it's a lot of conversations, presentations, prototypes, and endless administrative writing of letters. But once you show them, we published this amazing book, like a mini manifesto of cultural community building. The evidence of the 7 years of publishing that experience of that book now is relevant and proof of concept.
Amazing.
Right? So, but I always have, one day maybe I'll write a book. But there are definitely some brands, corporates, and partners that coming back to your art of creative leadership, I realize in these organizations, usually there's always that group of leaders within the organization that champion you.
Yeah.
But once they're not there, you have to reinvent.
Different. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I take away a super interesting point that you connected, which is maybe one of the formula is to avoid egocentric, vertical, singular interaction, but more about community. Now, creating a pool of people, a team of people, a group of people with the same vision, with the same objective. And that is leadership at its core at the end of the day.
I hope so, right?
So, Marisa, I always close our episode with, I call it a fire round. Now, three quick questions. And let's see if we can answer with very few words. What inspired you and what do you want to inspire?
Okay, so I have to think about this. And you said 3 to 5 words or one word?
No, 3 to 5 is.
I was thinking a lot about is making the invisible power of design processes visible.
Interesting.
And impactful. I think that is important, but most important is people. People with curious minds. And I was researching a bit more to remind myself, what is social philanthropy? What is philanthropy? What is patronage? In the end, it's always about the love of people.
Love of people and curiosity.
Right. So it's understanding people, listening, and I would say being humble to be able to understand the different contexts to enact change.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy role, but it's also knowing how to say yes and knowing how to say no.
Also. Okay. Interesting. Second question. What challenges you and what do you want to challenge?
Oh, okay. Learning new things, but also craft. So I don't mean just also handcraft, but the craft of just being human or human beings in society, giving dignity to, say, a piece of public space furniture or building an opportunity for someone else is always a challenge. I do often see talent, and maybe because as educators, we also teach and nurture. But inherently, sometimes you see someone or a group of ideas that are so special that if we can make it real, I think that's
True.
the inspiring and also challenge I face is to see it
To see it and to
and
transform and realize
and
it.
execute. I don't give up. I also know our responsibility is to continue that momentum for others.
True.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Last question is, what do you disrupt or what would you wish to disrupt
Today
today?
or like future project.
Even future, whatever you like.
I mean, oh, okay. I think ecosystem building is important. I've always been very interested in the last few years, if not the urgency of looking at the region.
Yeah.
You know, there's 9 cities plus us in Macau, the Greater Bay Area region, 86 million. I have been thinking a lot about how to map that creativity, but also what is this atlas of creativity in the region. So it's been a long-term project, but I think it's urgent to establish and question that. So not that I can disrupt it, but I think we need a lot of people involved to
make it
build
there.
that.
But
And
you have
also,
a vision first,
Yeah.
maybe.
and an opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Marisa, thank you so much. Thank you for being in the show. I'm Gianluca Cinquepalmi. This is Creative Leaders at the House. Thank you so much, Marisa. Thank you, So House. Thank you, Edri Mendoza, for the video production. And then thank you for this amazing conversation. If we want to find you, LinkedIn or designtrust.hk.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa.
Thank you.